Hello everyone, I am Ritika Agarwal and here we will discuss about counterflow heat exchangers and their properties and the methods used in determining the rate of heat transfers and etc etc. So before proceeding further, let us see what are heat exchangers, what are their classification and how they are classified depending upon the need and the process they are supposed to be used and there are various factors on which the classification we classify the heat exchangers, and then we will focus on a particular type of heat exchanger, that is counterflow heat exchanger. Basically, counterflow heat exchanger is not directly a type of heat exchanger. It is a subtype of heat exchanger. um, Actually, when we classify heat exchanger on the basis of flow arrangement, then what happens is basically there are two types of heat exchangers in this category. First one is single pass and the second one is multi pass. And then counterflow is one of the subtype of single pass heat exchanger. We will see these all in later in our later slides. So yeah, heat exchangers. Exchangers are basically a device or a system that is used to transfer heat between two or more fluids or maybe more at different temperature while preventing them from mixing with each other, because our main focus is to just increase or decrease the temperature of a particular fluid without letting it mix with some other, because it will just increase our steps to purify it again, and you know so it is used in both heating and cooling processes. They also have a wide range of application in space heating, chemical plants, air conditioning, refrigerations, etc. Heat exchangers are classified into various types depending upon the need and the process they are supposed to be used. Also, we have seen that in many process industries, it is frequent necessity to heat, cool, vaporize, condense various fluid streams. So they also play a major role as talking about heat exchangers, that they play a major role in any process industries. So we were talking about the classification. So here we will only see the classification of heat exchangers depending upon the flow arrangement. So particularly there are two types of heat exchangers in this category. The first one is single pass type heat exchanger, and the second one is multi pass type of heat exchanger. Talking about the first one, single pass heat exchanger. So by single pass flow arrangement, we simply mean that both the fluids makes one pass in the exchanger. Whereas in multi-pass heat exchanger, the exchanger may have a basic flow arrangement that can be put into series to make it a multi-pass unit. Single pass heat exchangers is further divided into three major categories. The first one is parallel flow heat arrangement, the second one is counter flow flow arrangement, and the third one is cross flow heat arrangement. So the parallel flow heat arrange so in parallel flow heat arrangement, the fluid streams enter together at one end, flow parallel to each other in the same direction, and then leave together at the other end. In the counter flow heat arrangement, the two fluids flow parallel to each other but in opposite direction with the core. The third one is a cross flow. In this type of flow arrangement, the two fluids flow in direction normal to each other, making 90-degree with each other. Here we will only focus on counterflow heat arrangement. So as said earlier, in this type of arrangement, the two fluids flow anti-parallel to each other within the core. As we can see, in this figure, we can see counterflow heat arrangement in double pipe heat exchanger. In this, let's assume that in the inner pipe, hot fluid is flowing and in the outer pipe, cold fluid is flowing. The cold fluid is entering in the given exchanger through top right corner, resulting in its motion in left direction, while the fluid is entering in the inner pipe through its left end, resulting in its motion in right direction. Since both the fluids are flowing opposite to each other, therefore the given arrangement is counterflow heat arrangement. Now let's see how this flow arrangement is different and what are some of the properties and methods that are being used in this. So before talking about its uniqueness, as we can see in the diagram that the direction of flow of both the fluids is opposite. So what actually happened is the cooling medium absorb heat from the hot fluid traveling in the opposite direction. The cooling medium heats up as it travels through the heat exchanger, but as colder water enters the heat exchanger, it absorbs more heat, reducing the temperature much lower than could be achieved with parallel flow. Therefore, the arrangement of this kind of heat exchanger makes it more effective in terms of time and energy, as almost most of energy is utilized in the complete process itself. So, yeah, counterflow heat exchange arrangement is significantly more efficient, and depending on the flow rate and temperature, the heat transfer performance could be up to 15% more efficient, possibly enabling a smaller heat exchanger to be used, saving space and money. We can also say that in terms of effectiveness, counterflow is better than parallel flow, as it saves our time and energy. As said earlier, that most of the energy is utilized in the complete process itself, and if we do not need external source of energy for the process, then the internal energy will be used, and the time will also consume. Yes. So the next is temperature distribution in this arrangement. As we already are known with the fact that the main driving force of heat transfer is temperature. So uh, in counterflow heat exchangers too, temperature is directly proportional to heat transfer. So we can also say that as temperature will increase, heat transfer will also increase, and if temperature will reduce, rate of heat transfer will also reduce. As we can see in the figure that the T2, the second fluid is hot fluid, and the first fluid is cold fluid, because with the length, um, actually the graph is drawn to show the variation of temperature with the x-axis showing the length of the particular type of heat exchanger. So what actually happening is, uh, since the cold fluid is entering through the top right corner of the heat exchanger, which is of double type, so resulting in its left side motion. So with the x equal to L length, the temperature of T1 fluid is at maximum cold temperature. We can say that the lowest temperature of the fluid is at of T1 is when it is at x equals to L, assuming that the length of the fluid, the length of the double pipe heat exchanger is L. So with so between x equal to 0 and x equal to L, at x equal to 0, the temperature of first fluid, which is cold, is T1, which is exiting, and at x equal to L, the temperature of T1 is T1 in, which is entering, and with that x equal to L to x equal to 0 motion, the temperature of T1 liquid is decreasing, as we can see in the graph represented by C1, and the second one is the second graph is representing the temperature variation of T2 fluid, which is hot fluid, resulting in the increment in temperature from T2 in to T2 out, since T2 in is the temperature when hot fluid enters the double pipe heat exchangers through the in the inner pipe through the left corner, and exiting from with T2 out temperature from the uh, right corner of the inner pipe heat exchanger. Now let's talk about LMTD, which is basically log mean temperature difference. So the log mean temperature difference is also known as the logarithmic mean temperature difference is also known as log mean temperature difference, LMTD. which is used to determine the temperature driving force for heat transfer in flow systems, most notably in heat exchangers. The LMTD is a logarithmic average of the temperature difference between the hot and cold feeds at each end of the double pipe exchanger. For a given heat exchanger with constant area and a heat transfer coefficient, the larger the LMTD, the more heat is transferred. So we can also we can say that LMTD is a method of determining rate of heat transfer in counterflow heat arrangement, and from the particular statement we can conclude that LMTD value is directly proportional to rate of heat transfer value. So if the value of LMTD is higher, the rate of heat transfer will also be higher. The use of LMTD arises straightforwardly from the analysis of a heat exchanger with constant flow rate and fluid thermal properties. Again, in a heat exchanger, temperature difference is variable all the length of the heat exchanger, because we have also seen that depending upon the temperature of the fluid, or if the fluid is hot or cold, the temperature of fluid varies as it moves from the right corner to left corner, or from the left corner to right corner in this kind of flow arrangement. So yes, temperature difference is variable all the length of the heat exchanger. There is a difficulty in handling variable temperature difference. Yes, because if we are calculating or solving a particular problem, it will become very difficult to handle that, to handle the temperature difference at every instance of time of at every instant, and with every dx changing its temperature. So yes, it will be very difficult. Efforts are made to find the mean temperature difference. In case of heat exchanger, the mean temperature difference come in the log form, hence it is called logarithmic mean temperature difference. Yes, there are various assumptions while handling with this method. Actually, uh, there are various limitations of there are also some limitations of this method. So for handling with those limitations, we have assumed various assumptions, so that we can handle straightforwardly with this method. So our first assumption is u is constant. U is basically overall heat transfer, which is constant all along the heat exchangers. The second one is steady flow conditions. That steady flow condition is we can say that in steady flow conditions, rate of heat transfer uh, is equal to total internal energy change, because because in steady flow condition, work done is equals to 0. And as we have learned that from first law of thermodynamics, that delta q is equal to delta u plus w. So if work done is 0 in steady flow condition, therefore delta q is directly equal to delta u. Therefore the rate of overall the total rate of heat transfer is equal to total change in internal energy. The third one is specific heats of hot and cold fluids are constant. It is saying that Cp of a hot fluid and Cp of cold fluids are we have to we have to handle these two variables as constant. Okay. The fourth one is flow rates of hot and cold fluids are constant. Fine. The fifth one is there is no heat loss to the surrounding, there is no heat gain from the surrounding. So yes, as mentioned, as stated earlier, that total internal energy change will be equal to total rate of rate of heat transfer rate. So yes, there is no phase change of the either fluid. Conduction in the tube and shell are negligible, and kinetic as well potential energy of fluids are constant. So yes, LMTD. We assume that a generic heat exchanger has two ends, which we call A and B, at which the hot and cold streams enter or exit on the either side. Then the LMTD is defining logarithmic mean as follows. Actually, what it is saying is that we are assuming the left corner as A and the right corner as B. Since as read or stated earlier that the graph is showing the variation of temperature with the distance, and L is showing the length of the heat exchanger. Delta A is basically the change in temperature, change in initial temperatures of both the fluids, and delta B is showing the change in the final change in temperatures of both the fluid. From the graph we can say that with distance the temperature of the red line is decreasing. So we can say that the red red line graph is of hot fluid, because at x equal to 0, from the last figure that we have seen that the hot fluid is entering from the left corner, left end. So at x equal to 0 the temperature of hot fluid will be at maximum, and at x equal to L the temperature of hot fluid will be somewhere lower than its initial value. So we can conclude from this graph that the red line is showing the temperature variation with the distance of hot fluid, and the blue line is showing the temperature variation with the length of cold fluid. So yes, the formula of LMTD is basically delta TA minus delta TB upon ln of delta TA minus delta TB. Since from using the identity of ln A upon B, since ln A upon B is equals to ln A minus ln B, we can also say that LMTD is equals to delta A TA minus delta TB upon ln of delta TA minus ln of delta TB. For counter flow, as we have already assumed from the assumptions that there will be steady state condition. So by steady state condition we are simply assuming that rate of heat transfer between fluid and wall is equal to rate of change of internal energy of fluid. What happening is, as the hot fluid is releasing its energy and losing its temperature, the wall of the exchanger heats up, and the energy and then the energy from the wall transfers to the get transferred to the cold fluid, resulting the change in internal energy. So what actually happening is that rate of heat transfer between fluid and wall is will be equal to rate of change of internal energy of fluid. For hot fluid we can say that UdA theta is equals to minus Cp of hot fluid into delta T of hot fluid. Therefore delta T change in temperature for hot fluid will be equal to minus UdA theta upon mCp of hot fluid. Here U is total rate of change, and for cold fluid UdA theta is equals to minus mCp for cold fluid into delta T change in temperature for cold fluid. Therefore we can also say that change in temperature for cold fluid is equals to minus U dA theta upon m, where m is the mass of the fluid, and Cp of cold fluid. Now we can, now yes, so as we can see from the graph, which is basically showing the variation of temperature with the distance. So in the counter flow heat arrangement there are terms like THI and THO, also THE and TCE. where Thi is the temperature of hot fluid at the time of inlet, that is hot inlet temperature of hot fluid inlet, and THE is the temperature of hot fluid at the time of exiting. Similarly, TCE is the temperature of cold fluid at the time of exiting, and TCI is the temperature of cold fluid at the time of entering. Here at x equal to 0, the temperature of Thi will be maximum, and with the distance that x equals to L, the temperature of hot fluid will decrease up to THE. Similarly, the temperature of cold fluid will be minimum at x equals to L, considering the previous diagram where the cold fluid is entering from the upper right corner, and the hot fluid is entering from the middle of from the left corner of the inner pipe. So theta 1 is basically the difference in inlet temperatures of hot and cold fluid, and theta 2 is basically the inlet temperature of the outlet temperature of hot and cold fluids. We can also say that the upper graph is showing the temperature variation with the length of hot fluid, and the lower diagram is showing the temperature variation of the cold fluid. Moving on to the next slide. Yes, for the counterflow heat arrangement at the beginning of elementary area, theta will be equal to Th minus Tc, that is the initial temperature of hot fluid minus initial temperature of cold fluid. Therefore, d theta is equals to dTh minus dTc. Therefore, on we also d theta is equals to minus UdA theta upon mCp of hot fluid from previous slide, minus in bracket minus UdA theta upon mCp for cold fluid. Here dTh, the value of dTh is equals to minus UdA theta upon mCph. We have written it from this slide. Similarly, for dTc, the value is minus UdA theta upon mCp for cold fluid. Therefore, d theta is equals to taking minus UdA theta common. Therefore, in bracket 1 upon mCp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mCp for cold fluid will be left. Therefore, d theta upon theta will be equals to minus UdA in bracket 1 upon mCp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mCp for cold fluid. Since dA is equals to bdx, we can also see from here that dA is equals to bdx. Therefore, on integration from theta 1 to theta 2 and x equal to 0 to x equals to L, therefore d theta upon theta is equals to minus UB in bracket 1 upon mCp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mCp cold fluid, bracket close, integrating dx from x equal to 0 to x equals to L. Here minus UB in bracket 1 upon mCp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mCp cold fluid is taken as common, because we have previously assumed that U will be constant and Cp value for both hot and cold fluid and also mass for hot and cold fluid will be common, and B is obviously constant. Therefore, considering all the values as constant, we are only integrating dx with x equal to 0 to x equals to L. Now, on integrating d theta upon theta from theta 1 to theta 2, we will gain log base e theta from theta 1 to theta 2 is equals to minus UB in bracket 1 upon mCp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mCp for cold fluid, bracket close, and from the integration of dx from x equal to 0 to x equals to L, we will get x, in which we have to put the values from x equal to 0 to x equals to L, integrate it from this to this. Now putting the values, on putting the limits, we will get log base e theta 2 minus log base e theta 1 is equals to minus u into b in bracket 1 upon mcp into h minus 1 upon mcp for cold fluid in bracket L minus 0, because on putting the limits we always get the difference of both the limits. Now log base e theta 2 upon theta 1 is equals to minus u b into L in bracket 1 upon mcp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mcp for cold fluid. Therefore log base e theta 2 upon theta 1 is equals to minus u a into a, because dA is equals to b into dx. So if we consider if we can also say that a is equals to b into L. Therefore we have written in the second step b into L is equals to a. In bracket there will be 1 upon mcp for hot fluid minus 1 upon mcp for cold fluid. Now what is actually happening in third step is that we have we are known with the fact that log theta 2 upon theta 1 will be equals to minus of log theta 1 upon theta 2. So what we have done is we have used that minus sign from the second step before u to convert log base theta 2 upon theta 1 to log base theta 1 upon theta 2. Therefore finally we will get log base theta 1 upon theta 2 is equals to u into a in bracket mcp for hot fluid minus mcp for cold fluid. Net heat transfer rate is equal to the net change in internal energy. Yes, as we have considered that there will be steady state condition, so net heat transfer rate will be equal to net change in internal energy. Therefore q will be equal to mcp of hot fluid in bracket th of inlet temperature of hot fluid minus exiting temperature of hot fluid, that will be equal to mcp for cold fluid into uh, exiting temperature of cold fluid minus inlet temperature of cold fluid, because as we are known with the fact that q is equals to mcp delta t, so we have used the same formula here for hot and cold fluid respectively. Therefore we will get 1 upon mcp for hot fluid will be equal to an inlet temperature of hot fluid minus exiting temperature of hot fluid upon q. Similarly, for on solving the above equation, we will also get 1 upon mcp for cold fluid will be equal to exiting temperature of cold fluid minus inlet temperature of cold fluid upon q, that is heat transfer rate. Now log theta 1 upon theta 2 is equals to u into a in bracket inlet temperature of hot fluid minus exiting temperature of hot fluid upon q minus exiting temperature of cold fluid minus inlet temperature of cold fluid whole upon q bracket closed. Again log base c upon in bracket theta 1 upon theta 2 is equals to u into a, taking q as common, so u into a upon q in bracket um, inlet temperature of hot fluid minus exiting temperature of hot fluid in bracket whole minus 2 exiting temperature of cold fluid minus inlet temperature of cold fluid bracket closed. Therefore again log base e theta 1 upon theta 2 will be equals to ua upon q thi minus tce minus the minus tci. Here what we have done is that we have just uh, put the initial temperatures of both, sorry, the higher temperatures of both the fluids in first bracket and the lower temperatures of, or the after process temperature of both the fluids in second bracket. So yes, log base e theta 1 upon theta 2 will be equals to qa upon theta, as we have seen that thi minus tc will be equals to theta 1 from slide. Theta 1 is equals to Thi minus Tce, and theta 2 is equals to Thi minus Tci. Using the same in this equation, so we can also write that log base e theta 1 upon theta 2 is equals to u into a upon q in bracket theta 1 minus theta 2, where A is the cross-sectional area of the heat exchanger. Now Q is equals to U into A in bracket theta 1 minus theta 2 upon log base E theta 1 upon theta 2. We have get this equation after cross multiplying the previous one. Therefore Q is equals to U into A into theta m, where theta m is representing LMTD value. Therefore theta 1 is equals to theta m is equals to theta 1 minus theta 2 whole upon log base e theta 1 upon theta 2. So this is the LMTD value for a counter flow heat exchanger, which is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2, where theta 1 is showing Thi minus Tce, where Thi is equal to inlet temperature of hot fluid and Tc equal to exiting temperature of cold fluid, and theta 2 is representing The minus Tci, where The is representing exiting temperature of hot fluid and Tci is inlet temperature of cold fluid, whole upon log base c of theta 1 minus theta 2. So yes, for counter flow heat exchanger, delta T LMTD is equals to delta T1 minus delta T2 upon ln delta T1 upon delta T2. We have already learned what are delta T and delta 2, but here delta T1 and delta T2 represent difference in temperature of both the fluids at before the process and after the process respectively. So now what is NTU method? First we have learned that we have seen that what is LMTD method. Now we will be dealing with what is NTU method. So in heat exchanger analysis, if the fluid inlet and outer temperature are specified or can be determined by simply energy balance. Repeating that in a heat exchanger analysis, if the fluid inlet and outlet temperatures are specified or can be determined by simply energy balance, the LMTD method can be used. But when these temperatures are not available, the NTU or effectiveness method is used. So NTU method is also known as effectiveness method. Yes. To define the effectiveness of a heat exchanger, we need to find the maximum possible heat transfer that can be hypothetically achieved in a counter flow heat exchanger of finite length. Basically, the number of transfer units method, which is NTU method, is used to calculate the rate of heat transfer in heat exchanger, especially in countercurrent exchanger type of flow arrangement, when there is insufficient information to calculate log mean temperature difference. So therefore one fluid so to define the effectiveness of a heat exchanger, we need to find the maximum possible heat transfer that can be hypothetically achieved in a counter flow heat exchanger of finite length. Therefore one fluid will experience the maximum possible temperature difference, which is the difference of inlet temperatures of both the fluids, that is Thi minus Tci. The temperature difference between the inlet temperature of the hot stream is represented by Thi and the inlet temperature of cold stream represented by Tci. Yes. So the effectiveness of a countercurrent flow heat exchanger is calculated with, here epsilon is showing the effectiveness, which is basically equals to 1 minus exponentially, that is 1 minus e to the power minus NTU in bracket 1 minus Cr bracket close whole upon 1 minus Cr e to the power minus NTU in bracket 1 minus Cr. We will see what is NTU and what are Cr in later slides. So here let's see for countercurrent current flow heat exchange of Cr, if the value of Cr is equals to 1, then the effectiveness value will directly be equals to NTU upon 1 plus NTU. So yes, in NTU method, Cr is equals to C minimum upon C maximum. Here C minimum uh, is basically minimum heat capacity rates, and C maximum is equals to maximum heat capacity rates. So basically Cr is equals to minimum heat capacity rate upon maximum heat capacity rates. Next is NTU, that is basically number of transfer unit, which is equals to U into A upon C minimum, where U is the overall heat transfer coefficient, A is the heat transfer area, and C minimum is minimum heat capacity rate. Therefore number of transfer units is basically is equal to overall heat transfer coefficient into heat transfer area whole upon minimum heat transfer rate. Calculating the heat capacity rates, that is mass flow rate multiplied by specific heat, Ch and Cc for the hot and cold fluid respectively, and denoting the smaller one as C minimum. Therefore C minimum is equals to minimum of Mc, that is mass of cold fluid, into C into P, that is heat capacity rate of cold fluid, comma um, mass of hot fluid into heat capacity rate of hot fluid. Therefore C minimum will be the minimum value between uh, in between of uh, MCP for hot fluid and MCP for cold fluid. Therefore, we can easily calculate the effectiveness value in this NTU method by directly putting all the values, that is effectiveness value will be equals to 1 minus e to the power. Here NTU is equals to U into A upon C minimum, and C minimum is equals to minimum of the two values, that is MCP of hot fluid and MCP of cold fluid, in bracket 1 minus Cr, which is Cr is basically equal to minimum heat capacity rate upon maximum heat capacity rate whole upon 1 minus Cr e to the power in bracket e to the power in bracket minus NTU is again U into A upon C minimum, and C minimum is equals to minimum of both the values of MCP and MCP for hot and cold fluids, and in bracket 1 minus Cr. So now we have learned two methods. The first one is LMTD method, and the second one is NTU method. The point that NTU method is used is only when there is insufficient information to calculate the log mean temperature difference. Therefore, our first choice will always give priority to LMTD method before choosing. Now let's talk about between LMTD versus NTU method what will be our first priority. So LMTD method is useful for determining the overall heat transfer coefficient U based on experimental values of the inlet and outlet temperatures and the fluid flow rates. However, these methods is not very convenient for prediction of outlet temperatures if the inlet temperatures and U are known. In this case, one has to solve a non-linear system of two equations and the overall energy balance for two unknowns, that is the outlet temperature of hot fluid and the outlet temperature of cold fluid. This solution requires application of an iterative approach. So in this case, NTU method will be prioritized. Also, a more convenient method for predicting the outlet temperature is the effectiveness NTU method. This method can be derived from the LMTD method without introducing any additional assumptions. Therefore, the effectiveness NTU and LMTD methods are equivalent. An advantage of the effectiveness NTU method is its ability to predict the outlet temperatures without resorting to a numerical iterative solution of a system of nonlinear equations. Now let's see what are various limitations of LMTD method. So the first one is It has been assumed that the rate of change for the temperature of both fluids is proportional to the temperature difference. This assumption is valid for fluids with a constant specific heat, which is good description of fluids changing temperature over a relatively small range. However, if the specific heat changes, the LMTD approach will no longer be accurate. A particular case for the LMTD are condensers and reboilers, where the latent heat associated to phase change is a special case of the hypothesis. For a condenser, the hot fluid inlet temperature is then equivalent to the hot fluid exit temperature. So these are the two limitation of LMTD. There are many. The third one is it has also been assumed that the heat transfer coefficient U is constant. Considering U is constant, we have done this only in LMTD, not in NTU method. And in LMTD, it has also not been discussed as a function of temperature. If this is not the case, the LMTD approach will again be less valid. The LMTD is a steady state concept and cannot be used in a dynamic analysis. In particular, if the LMTD were to be applied on a transient in particular if the LMTD were to be applied on a transient in which for a brief time the temperature difference had different signs on the two sides of the exchanger, the argument to the logarithmic function would be negative, which is not allowable. So the basic conclusion is that in any heat exchanger analysis, if the fluid inlet and outlet temperatures are specified or can be determined by simply energy balance. Since we have discussed that THI and TCI, also THO and TCO, that are inlet temperatures of hot and cold fluid, and the inlet temperature TCO and HCO are inlet temperatures of outlet temperature of cold and hot fluid respectively. So if in any heat exchange analysis, if the fluid inlet and outlet temperatures are specified or can be determined by simply energy balance, then the LMTD method can be used, because in LMTD we have assumed that the steady state condition will be followed and U is constant, and in steady state condition the total rate of heat transfer will be equal to total internal energy change. So therefore in that particular case the LMTD method can be used. But when these temperatures are not available and cannot be determined by simply balancing the energy equations, then the NTU or effectiveness method will be prioritized first. Not just LMTD method has limitation, NTU method has also its limitations. So the first and major most limitation of NTU method is that this method is not very convenient for prediction of outlet temperatures if the inlet temperatures and U are known. So we have discussed that if we are unknown with the fact with the terms TCI, TCO, TCI, TCO, THI and THO, then we will go for NTU method. But if we are known with the inlet variables, that is THI and TCI, then we should go with the LMTD method, because in NTU method it is not very convenient for prediction of outlet temperatures if the inlet temperatures and U are known. In this case, one has to solve a non-linear system of two equations and the overall energy balance for two unknown, that is THO and TCO, which will become which will become very complex variable to solve, and we have to just integrated multiples time to get the value. So in that particular case, um, it is advisable to just go with LMTD method. So in this we have seen that what are heat exchangers, what are how they are classified in terms of flow arrangement, and what is counterflow heat arrangement, what are their properties, how the graph can be flown, what are its uniqueness, and how we compare um, it with parallel flow heat arrangement. Then we have seen two of its method, LMTD method and NTU method, for determination of its overall heat transfer rate, in which NTU method is only advisable when all the four unknowns, that is THI, THO, TCI, TCO, are unknowns. Um, um, but if two two of them are known, then LMTD methods is advised to be chosen. So that's all for this. Thank you.